What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. What exactly am I going to be speaking about in today's video? I have a very significant topic for today. This is something that falls along the lines of how the universe actually functions. And this is one of the deeper mysteries of the universe itself that there are truly a lot of people that don't fully understand. Now, when you start to understand this principle, your entire life will shift drastically. And this is not something that is just merely made up. This is not something that I just believe on a whim. This is something that I've had real life experience with. I know it internally. I know it through my body. It's something that I've experienced on that type of level. I've seen it in other types of people and how the certain types of experiences they've been through have led them to the same awareness. So once again, I'm going to be going into some of the depths of how the universe actually functions so that you can take this for your own awareness and you can use this in your daily life and use it to your advantage. So with that being said, this is exactly what I'm going to be covering in today's video. If this is something that you want to know a little bit more about, you definitely have one thing to do, and that is to stay tuned. Alright, let me first start with introducing myself just in case you're new to my channel. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I'm a professional occultist. I'm fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. I'm studied when it comes to planetary energies in association with astrology. And I'm also studied when it comes to trauma and the nervous system. So with that being said, that right there is going to create the context for the rest of this video. And if you're new, I'm glad to have you here. And also if you're reoccurring, glad to have you here as well. All right, so let's go into it. So we are talking about some of the deeper mysteries of the universe that most people are completely ignorant to and are very much so neglecting. And because of this level of neglect and level of ignorance, there are many people that are going through so much unnecessary pain and suffering that they don't necessarily have to be going through if they went through this shift or if they went through this paradigm perspective shift. So this is one of those knowledge-based paradigms on how our universe functions that once you actually get it and you embody it and you've experienced it, that's usually the way that it actually sinks in. So that's the funny thing with knowledge. It's like I can tell you this truth, you can hear it, you can absorb it mentally, but until you've actually experienced it to a certain extent, that's when it's really going to soak in. If you haven't had that moment yet, this knowledge may not fully soak in. But as long as you're aware of that, that's what's most important. So with that being said though, one of the most important things to be aware of with how this universe functions is something that is actually so simple that a lot of people don't really take into account. And it really comes down to the universe operates out of love. So in other words, the source, God, the infinite all, whatever you want to call it, it operates always out of a space of spiritual evolution. So everything that is happening for a reason. There are no mistakes within the universe. And everything that happens is literally designed for some form of spiritual self-development and spiritual evolution. And when I say spiritual, that's like the highest branch that comes down into the mental, emotional, the physical, the psychological, and you name it, etc. Everything is designed to help you better know yourself and to help you better know not only just yourself, but your true self connection to nature, to the universe, to the all, to the source. So this perspective shift becomes so significant because when we actually look at this, this means that every single unfortunate circumstance that you've ever been through in your life, including all of your traumas that you've ever experienced, they happen for a very intentional, divinely orchestrated reason to help you better know your true self. And this can be so hard to actually wrap your mind around, because a lot of the times when you're in the midst of pain and suffering due to certain types of trauma that you went through, that pain and suffering can sometimes be so intense you forget that it's actually leading you somewhere important. And when you forget that it's actually leading you somewhere important, somewhere that's going to be very helpful for you, leading you to a place where you're actually going to be the opposite of that pain and suffering, you're going to experience happiness, joy, freedom. And the pain and suffering can be so intense that we forget there's another side to this. We forget where this challenge is actually designed to lead us. So the problem is in this moment is that we start to identify with the pain and the suffering, and we start to believe that this is a bad hand that we were dealt. We start to believe that the universe isn't fair. We start to believe that God doesn't like us. We start to believe that what happened to us was merely unlucky, and because of it, we cannot be who we're meant to be anymore. And this is partially indoctrination. This is stuff that is programmed for people to easily grab onto in our modern time society. I mean, if you look at the foods we eat, you look at the content we consume, you look at the types of relationships we seek, all of these things promote us to stay in this sort of dense state where we are always heavy and we are feeling restricted. And we do start to take on that perspective. We do start to come from a paradigm of, oh, my life is unfair. This is the reason why. And at the end of the day, everyone is their own magician. Everyone truly has the power to create a reality that they want to experience. And it really is our divine right, as we align with the true self, as we integrate, and as we process repressed negative emotions from some of the traumas we've been through in our past, we naturally are getting into a space where we start experiencing more love, happiness, freedom, contentment, satisfaction, euphoria, excitement, you name it. But when we forget about that, and when we don't have the proper education or the proper knowing, and we continue to seek negative coping mechanisms and negative cycles and negative habits and negative relationships that are designed to keep us stuck within our traumas, where we are running away from that repressed emotion by seeking these negative habits, then it's very easy for us to start locking onto, on a mental level, this is just what our life is. This is just what my life has in store for me. This is something that I can't change. This is something that, we all have to go through, and we have to just accept it. It's so easy for people to fall into that, to the point where they do fall into it. And when they fall into that, most people stay in that cycle, or they stay in that paradigm, and it keeps them there. It keeps them in that imprisonment, basically. It keeps them in that unnecessary pain and suffering, all because they don't understand the actual truth of how our universe functions. And this is like a mind bender. This is like a paradigm destroyer if you're someone who's been stuck in this state and you're falling into being a victim. Right? Really think about that. It's like being a victim. This happened to you, so this is why you're like this. This person did this thing, or they said this thing, and that's why you're here. This person did this thing to you, and you couldn't control it, and now you are where you are, and you just have to stay there. It's like, are you in that state? And if you're in that state, is that where you want to stay? And if the answer is no, which it obviously should be no, then you have to consider what it is that I'm talking about when I say the universe operates out of love. And the source, the infinite all, or God, literally operates always in your favor. And even if you don't understand how the universe operates, that doesn't mean that these principles aren't at play right now as we speak. So, to be loved by God, to be loved by the universe, to be loved by the all, really what I'm saying is to love yourself, knowing that you are connected to these things, you are going to find yourself realizing, wow, every single negative situation that I've ever been through in my life was divinely orchestrated to teach me a lesson to get me to where it is that I'm supposed to be. And you don't even have to control any of that. You don't, I want you to really take this in. You don't need to or have to know who it is that you're going to be. Let me say that one more time, and let me communicate this in a way that you fucking get it. You don't know. I don't know why I keep saying that. It must have to just come out. You don't know who you're going to be in the future. You do not know what you're becoming, and that's okay. That's a part of this process. But as you start to shift the paradigm and shift the perspective to know that what it is that you're going to become is going to be so satisfying, so happy, so joyful, and there's going to be so much internal freedom that you experience. And in order to experience that, or to enter into that state, or to be in that process, you have to understand the universe operates in your favor at all times. That is literally how it's designed. So when you start to reflect on some of your past and all the really challenging circumstances that you've been through, all the really challenging situations, all the traumatic relationships, the traumatic, shocking events that took place in your life that maybe changed you for, since that time, every single one of them happened to show you something within yourself, to lead you to different beliefs, to lead you to different awareness, so that you could start a process of intending you becoming your true self. And through that process, it's going to require you to feel into some of those repressed emotions back that are attached to those traumatic experiences, circumstances, and relationships. And in that process, as you start feeling your repressed emotions and you start healing some of those past traumas, now your mind starts to recalibrate, and it starts to actually configure a new awareness towards the traumas that you've been through in your past. And it actually makes sense out of them, so that you start to see why they happened in the first place, and how if they didn't happen, you wouldn't be able to be where you are in this present moment or where you want to be. So this can be a little bit hard to understand when right now, your present moment, you're in pain and you're suffering and you feel like your life isn't going too well. Now, if you're at a state where you are experiencing what I'm talking about, with life starting to free itself up, with you starting to get in tune with the rhythm of nature and the rhythm of the universe, and you're starting to be more happy with yourself, you're starting to do little things that show self-love. If you're in that state right now, then I'm sure you resonate with what I'm talking about. But the version of you that you have the potential to become is that free, happy, satisfied, true self being. And until you want, if you really want to experience that state, and you want to be that on a consistent daily basis, where you literally wake up satisfied and you wake up happy to live, right? You wake up happy because you love what you do. You love your life routines. Like, there's love in your life. You love yourself. If you want to live like that, you have to start realizing everything in your life right now is happening for a reason. And every negative, traumatic situation is literally designed as a stepping stone. Not like, I am not saying this just because I'm trying to shift your mindset. I'm not just saying this because I read it in some mindset book. I'm not just saying this to trick your mind and trick your body. This is literally how the universe operates. This is actually how the cosmos functions. So when you see all these past negative situations, traumas in this way, you start to realize, wow, if I'm in pain and suffering right now and I'm stuck, then I can at least understand that maybe this won't last forever. I can at least start the process of saying, you know what? Maybe this could change at some point. I may not know how it's going to change. I may not know what it looks like to have the change. I may not even fully believe it 100%, but if I can at least set that inkling of an intention to say, this could shift at one point, this can start a process of you actually moving in that direction. And it's eventually going to require you to start realizing, I need to stop attaching to being a victim of the planet, of the world, of my relationships, of my family dynamic. I need to start taking responsibility and saying, I am hurt. I went through a lot. I don't want to keep going through this, but if I want to get out of this situation, I need to start realizing these things happened to make me who I am. And these things took place so that I could be what it is that I'm becoming. And I may not know what that is yet, but it's a lot better than probably where it is right now in this present moment. Because if we're going to stay mentally attached to us being the victim and all these things that happen as if they're not fair, we are holding ourselves in that reality because the mind is so powerful. So it really is important for us to start at least letting go of that victim mentality. We don't even have to, get into the depths of the mindset and have to see ourselves as being the successful person or someone that is happy. We don't even have to see that yet. All we have to really do in this starting phase is just let go of us being attached to being a victim as if these things didn't happen for a reason. Because I can guarantee if this is the state that you're currently in right now, it's going to be hard for you to look at these situations that are happening in your life right now, as well as in your past. It's going to be hard for you to realize that these things are happening for your interest. This type of awareness and this type of perspective usually comes once you start shifting out of that state, and then your mind completely changes. And it's like, whoa, I had no idea back in 2005 when I was going through the hardest time in my entire life that this situation literally made me who I am today. Like that one situation that lasted 3 years, that was the hardest 3 years of my life, made me what I am today. It shifted me so much that 15, 20 years later down the road, I am literally doing what I love, and I love what I do. Wow. So I share this just so that you can understand what this looks like. But once again, it starts with just letting go. This is why the entry point into shifting into these new paradigms or shifting into these new perspectives literally starts with that foundation of the feminine energy. Being receptive to the unknown, listening to understand, right? Which is you listening to me, you're listening to understand with this education that I'm giving you, and you have to be receptive to the unknown. You've got to be receptive to some of these things that I'm talking about, even if you've never experienced it before. It could be true. It could not be true. Are you receptive to the unknown? Right? And letting go, trusting the process, letting go of that identity of things aren't fair. I have bad luck in my life. Why did they do this to me? I'm a victim. We have to let go of that, surrender and say, you know what? I'm going to detach from that identity. I'm going to stop fueling that and charging that with my mental power, because I'm starting to get educated by Jeremiah that my mind is so powerful that as I identify with that type of reality and with that type of mentality, this is the exact reality that I'm creating for myself. And you may have heard this before, but it may not have been taught to you in a way that it actually spoke to you enough to cause a shift. So hopefully that's what I'm able to do right now in this video. And there will be some of you that are going to receive it, and there are going to be others that won't receive it. And that's natural. So don't beat yourself up if you don't receive it, and freely take it in if you are receiving it. Absorb that in. Let it go. Let it transfer from me to you. All right? So with that being said, then we let go, we surrender, we trust the process. Because whenever we're letting go, as we're stepping into what is unknown, that process is always going to be scary. So what do we have to do? We have to trust that the universe operates out of love. See, this is one of the funniest things about the universe. As I keep saying, it always operates out of love. It's like one of the biggest divine laws that we're here to learn as the human beings is to learn how to trust the love that exists within the universe, where we completely let go of our need to control it, completely let go of our need to know exactly what's going to happen, and we have to surrender to that natural love that exists within the universe to trust that it's going to place us where it is that we need to be even when we don't even know what that looks like. And we trust that this divine orchestration happens in such a precise way with divine intelligence that it's exactly what we need. And the more we actually try to control it, the more we're just interfering with that divine intelligence. So we completely let go and we completely surrender. Feminine energy. Now the third principle is feeling the emotions. As you're feeling your emotions, these are where these repressed energies are that we stored in our nervous system from the past traumas that we went through. So when you go through a trauma at a young age, which is where a lot of us get our traumas from, the childhood trauma, we're so young and we're so little and we don't have the education and we don't have the capacity within our bodies to know how to feel the intensity of that sensation or of that emotion from the trauma. So we freeze it. Look, my body's even responding. We freeze it in our nervous system and we have to become something else. We have to literally separate or fragment from our true self in order to survive the trauma, to survive the feeling and the sensation. And the problem is that as we get older with that frozen emotion in our body, we fragment more and more and more because we're just continuously identifying with this artificial version of ourself because we're always surviving. And the way that this progresses is we're basically just consistently running away from our emotions. So we have this locked in emotion of what's often fear, sadness, and anger that's repressed in the nervous system. And we are simply consistently running away from feeling those exact emotions because they, in a way, they remind us of that time we went through the trauma when we were a little kid. And that emotion is still so intense. So we're just continuously running away from it. But at the same time, the more we're running away from it, the more those negative emotions actually grow. It's like the bigger they become, the more intensely charged they become to the point where they completely start controlling us unconsciously. They start permeating through the consciousness, through the cells of the body, through everything, through the energy field, and they literally start governing our life unconsciously. This is like what most people in our modern times call demons. Really, it's not demons, but this is what people call demons, refer to in modern culture. All right, but this is really just repressed negative energies from emotions that someone stored in their nervous system that have never processed and never spent time to feel. So only until someone gets the right education and the right, we could even maybe sometimes say the right practices and definitely the right mentorship or the right guidance to start a process, a slow process of learning how to feel the body sensations, learning how to feel those repressed emotions. It is only until that point where we start to face ourselves and we start to actually feel what it is that we've been running away from for years on end. And this is the beginning point of us starting to love ourselves. And there is a beautiful thing that takes place when we start to actually begin to love ourselves. Although it's uncomfortable, it's not easy. This is why it's really important to have a guide through this process or someone that can operate as a mentor, which is definitely what I offer. If anyone's interested in getting a mentorship with me, if you resonate with what it is that I talk about and you feel like you are in that position where you need someone to guide you, like myself, the second link in the YouTube description is where you can book a mentorship with me. But as I was saying, only until that time when we start facing our present moment emotions, and then we allow ourselves to start feeling them as we're also starting to regulate our nervous system, we're now removing certain stressors within our life, and we're expanding the ability for stress to even come into our system. So this is like literally what it means to expand your capacity, which means you have more of an ability to go into stressful situations. You already have the education and the knowing on how to remove stress from your body. We could almost think of that as a form of detoxing energetically. And then we're also expanding your ability to hold stress. So there's an analogy that I learned along these lines that talks about this, where it's like a pool analogy. It's like you have a pool and the stress is like the beach balls that you throw in the pool. And when you don't have the right tools in place or the right healthy coping mechanisms in place, the stress or all the pool balls are getting thrown into this pool to the point where the pool is getting full, and you're trying to remove the balls from the pool, but you don't have enough hands or you don't have enough people to remove all those balls. So the balls are literally building up. The stress is building up. So there's two things that we really want to focus on at this point. We want to speed up the detox, where we start removing the beach balls to the point where they're not overflowing. So we want to have these healthy patterns and routines in our life that help us to remove that stress for when things get overwhelming or when the pool gets overcrowded with the stress. And then another thing is we want to expand the pool. We want to make the pool bigger. All right. We want to go from like a little outside backdoor, backyard pool to a complete, 5-star hotel, W hotel pool, where we expand it much bigger for many more guests. There's much more space for stress to come in, and much more room for us to remove that stress as well. Much more room for the beach balls to go into that pool, and much more room for us to remove those beach balls at the same time. So that's what it means to expand the capacity within the nervous system, and also knowing how to detox from negative emotions by going through this process of feeling them and processing them. This is turning lead, negative emotion, into gold, positive emotion, by feeling. So all of this that I just talked about is rooted in that feminine energy. And I will explain to you in like 1 second here on how this all literally connects back to the Kabbalistic tree. So I love the Kabbalistic tree, and I will forever be a student of this knowledge and this awareness and philosophy even. And it literally shows, this is such a divine structure, but it really shows us on this tree that this principle is literally the foundation of everything. So this, in terms of spiritual self-development or occult initiation, we travel from Malkuth, which is the physical plane, which is Earth, right? This is like the 5 senses and all those other things. And then we go up the tree. So then we go from Malkuth to Yesod, which is the moon. Then we go to Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and then we go through what's called the crossing of the abyss, and then Saturn, Neptune, and we finish at Pluto. And when we finish, what I mean by that is now we've activated a lot of different cellular structures, genetic codes, and DNA strands. That's why the tree itself looks like the strand of the DNA. So we've accessed that within the self, or we've opened that up within the self at this point. So it's not that we're done living with or experiencing the tree of life once we finish our initiations. It just means we've opened up these energetic channels within our body that become very nuanced and go into very much depth. So now we have a much more primed system to experience the whole range of life experiences on a mental level, an emotional level, a physical level, a psychological level, and of course, a spiritual level. For sure, a spiritual level. That's definitely what this is associated with. All right? So with that being said, but connecting it back, you can see literally the second sphere that we go into for initiation. This can actually literally be looked at as the first sphere that we go into for our initiation, is literally the sphere of the moon, which is feminine in nature. For anyone that knows planetary energies, you know the moon is literally associated with the mother. The moon is the feminine energy. It is the emotions. It is the cycles of the moon. It's the cycles of nature. It's the season cycles. And then as you can clearly see here, they call it the foundation. So Yesod is the foundation, that ability to self-reflect and then apply all those other feminine principles that we just talked about becomes the actual underlying foundation for how we start traveling up this tree, gaining more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding, and of course, more experience. Without that foundation in the feminine energy, we are going to have a weak foundation to the point where we may start opening up some of these energetic channels in our body, but we're not ready to process those energies yet. And that actually leads us to a space where we tend to become more traumatized, because it's like, I mean, the best analogy I can give you is like, let's use the UFC as an analogy. It's like you're about to fight a professional UFC fighter, and let's say you've only been training in the gym for 1 year. It's like, are you ready? Like in 1 year, you can make progress for sure. You can completely transform within a year's time, but there's no way you're ready to fight at that level of professionalism after 1 year of training. So going into the gym with someone like Nate Diaz, who's been training his entire life, that is going to be, you're going to need a large capacity and an ability to regulate your emotions to be able to go into that experience, because you're about to get your ass kicked. You're about to get your ass handed to you by this professional fighter. And when you get your ass handed to you, are you ready to process that pain? Are you ready to process the cuts, the bruises, the fact that you had to literally, surrender basically in the ring because you were getting beat on so heavily, right? There's so much that goes behind that, and then all the emotional processing. So that same analogy really does apply. If we don't have that proper feminine foundation, we tend to jump into practices that open up the doors to new experience, but we want to make sure that when we're doing that, we have the capacity to process what comes from these new experiences. And once again, all that is rooted in the feminine energy. And as I was talking about with this video today, we need to understand that everything we are going through in our life is literally designed to lead us to where it is that is in our best interest. Everything in life is designed to show you more of your true self, even the most negative situations. And even when you're at a space in your life where your capacity is overflown and there is too much stress being put into your body, if that's what's happening to you and that's where you are, then this is where you're supposed to be. This is obviously what the universe has in store for you. Now, does that mean that you should just sit there and let it happen and not try to intend your way through that or out of it or with it? No, it doesn't mean that. You definitely should seek help. You definitely should seek a guide or a mentor that can help educate you through this process so that you know what you're going through, so that you don't lose your mind, right? I don't even know if that's the word that I really like to use, losing your mind, so that you don't spiral downwards and further traumatize yourself to the point where you give up and you never intend to get out again, right? But you're there for a reason. And if that's where you are, then there are lessons in that moment that you're learning that are going to make a lot of sense once you get through it. But you have to get through it, and you have to know that it is your divine right to get through any hardship that you're currently going through now. And the only thing that stands against you in that divine right is your own mental belief system on what you're attaching to with where you are right now in your life. It is the only thing that gets in between that. If you actually identify with and believe that what's happened to you is unfair, what's going on in your life shouldn't have happened, you have bad luck, God doesn't like you, if you're falling into this victimhood, you are fueling, generating, and creating that exact hell that you are currently existing in, and you're going to stay in it for as long as you fuel that. And truly, the longer you fuel that belief system, the bigger it becomes, the stronger it becomes, the more the pain and suffering onslaughts until you finally crack. Sometimes, unfortunately, that's what we need. That's just how we grow as humans sometimes. Sometimes we have to touch the hot pan and get burned to realize, I'm not doing that again. So sometimes we need to go through that level of pain and suffering for our egg to crack. And then we say, all right, I surrender now. I let go. I'm not doing that. Like, this has not been working for me. This mindset, this belief, these friendships I've created, I'm not feeling better. My life's not getting better. It's not working. My egg is cracked. I'm now opening up to the unknown. I'm putting my hands up. I'm trusting the process now. And this becomes a beautiful thing because so many of us need to experience the unknown. So many of us need to just surrender and let go and allow that truly divine energy within our bodies move the way that they need to move. Naturally. We don't need to control any of it. And with that being said, as you start to shift out of being the victim and as you start to shift out of these really negative circumstances that are in your life, then you start experiencing more of the positive. You start feeling better for like the first time in years. You start feeling things that you didn't even know you were capable of feeling. You start thinking things you didn't even know you were capable of thinking. You start reshaping the way you perceive yourself because now you actually are starting to love yourself. And the way your mind starts shifting is you start seeing yourself in a completely different light. And there is no better feeling than what it is that I'm describing now. And then you literally get to look back at your life and you get to see all the hardship that you went through as literal lessons and stepping stones. There are some of you that resonate with what I'm talking about in the sense of you've already experienced this. There are some of you that haven't resonated with this yet, but when you have these experiences, this is one of the best experiences that you could ever have in your life, where you literally look back at your traumas, the things that were controlling you unconsciously, and then you see them from the perspective of, holy shit, if that never happened to me, then I wouldn't be here right now where I am feeling so fucking good. I am so thankful that I went through that pain and that suffering, and I learned that lesson so that I can be here feeling so good, and not only just feeling so good, but I can share this information, okay, which makes me feel even better. Like, I can share this. Like, I went through this for me, first and foremost for me, to love me, and now I have so much love inside of me, there's something that tells me I need to share this, and I feel like sharing this, and then I share it, and then guess what? I get love back. I get support for sharing it. It's just a constant stream of giving love, receiving love. Feeling so much love, I'm giving it. Giving out so much love, I'm receiving it. And then it's just it's an upward spiral. It's a positive cycle you find yourself in, and it's absolutely beautiful. But this can only happen when you start to really shift the paradigm and shift the perspective, and then start that process of going into your repressed emotions rather than running away. So once again, if you are listening to this video and you are struggling with this and you want a professional to help guide you through this process in your own unique way, then I am that person. All right? Definitely look into it. Take this as a sign from the universe that you're here right now and that you're hearing this message. The second link in my YouTube description is where you can book a mentorship and we can work on this together. I promise. I work with a bunch of people. I've literally seen people's lives over and over again transform for the better by applying these principles that I teach, that I talk about, and they are the same principles that I've applied and that I do apply in my daily life, and they do reap rewards. But it is a process, and you have to have the right education, and you have to basically know the right steps to take through this process to nurture your development of your foundation. It's a nurturing thing. We're not just jumping in. We're not speeding through. We're taking it real slow, step by step, going into your uniqueness and developing your foundation accustomed to who you are, step by step. All right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate all of you very much. If you got value from this content, come down here and hit the thumbs up. Let me know if this shifted something in you. Now also, come down here, drop down in the comment section and let me know how this spoke to you. Let me know what I said that opened your mind when I made this video. Let me know if you understand what I'm already talking about. And also go ahead and let me know if you're someone that is kind of stuck in this cycle right now. Let me know if you are the victim in your life. And if after listening to this video, you're starting to consider maybe letting go of that to see what potentially happens. So go ahead and drop down in those comments and let me know any of those different things that you experienced while watching this video. I'm highly interested. Now also come down and hit the notification bell. You want to get notified whenever I post this content. You do not want to miss. Get notified. Come down here and hit the subscribe button. By subscribing to my channel, you are further linking in there really is an energetic component that goes behind that, which means you're going to get more energetic value by actually subscribing. You subscribe, you get more energetic value. Go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to take your awareness to a private Facebook community. If you go down in that YouTube description and you scroll down, you're eventually going to see a link there that says private Facebook community. You can follow that. You can request to join. Then one of my moderators or myself will eventually add you in. All right, this is going to be an amazing group of people that are non-judgmental. It really is a safe space where you can start sharing some of the occult spiritual experiences that you've been through in your life and potentially, get some really valuable advice based on what it is that you're sharing, or just in general, connecting with other people that can hold space for you. All right, there's tons of amazing people that are in this Facebook community, and there are real life relationships and tight knit friendships that have been formed from this community. So it really does have a group of amazing individuals, and it's a healthy environment. And if it's not healthy, then I make the changes, I make the adjustments to make sure it is. All right, so all of that is in that private Facebook community. Check it out if you're interested. Now I'm going to take your awareness to a very important link within the YouTube description. It's the first link at the top. You can't miss it. This is the Patreon. Now on the Patreon, it's an entire grouping of videos that are not on my public YouTube channel. These are exclusive to the Patreon. So if you study from my YouTube channel and you're on a binge streak and you are not yet a part of my Patreon, you absolutely need to be a part of my Patreon. The content is more advanced and more personal than what you get here, and there's real life practices that you can start applying that are going to be super important for your self-development process. And there is just a wealth of knowledge on the Patreon that you could literally go down a rabbit hole on for a long time. And I talk about stuff that most people don't know and will not talk about. It can shift your paradigm. So look into that. It's the first link. Now you have tier number 3 and tier number 4. Tier number 3 is the entry point to gain access to the vampire ritual. This is a ritual performed on the 29th of every single month that's designed to change your entire energetic structure to be counterclockwise in spin. So it changes the spin of your energy field to start going counterclockwise, which is more magnetic. So it starts to develop that inner self-love, and you start to claim your power back. And those natural feminine qualities that we talked about start to get cultivated. You start to be more receptive to the unconscious subconscious. You start to feel your emotions for like the first time, feeling some of those repressed negative emotions at first, then over time, transmuting them, turning them into positive. Now, this is also amazing if you want to start undoing religious trauma. Okay, religious trauma affects all of us in some way, whether you believe it or not, and you would be surprised how much it affects us. But it starts to shift our perspective from seeing things in a dualistic sense, good versus evil, to seeing things, signs, symbols, and symbolism on what they actually are, which is simply power and potential. So there is no dark symbolism that's evil. It's only power and potential. You just have to understand it, or you just have to feel into what you're looking at or what you're observing. So it starts that process where we can start transmuting dark energy and chaos in our environments to then turn into that exact power and evolutionary potential that they really are. All right. There are almost 200 members on the Patreon that are taking advantage of this specific ritual right now. So if you want to take advantage of it, that would be tier number 3 of the Patreon is the entry point. Then as you move into tier number 4, you also gain access to it, but you also get some extra benefits as well. You have an ability to get a psychic prediction on a monthly basis. And then you have the ability, I think most importantly, to message me whenever you want on WhatsApp. And when I have the time, I respond to you through voice message. So if you want me on 24/7 call, basically, that is the tier that you want to take advantage of. That is tier number 4. All right, we're going to leave that there. All of that first link in that YouTube description. Now we're going to go into another very important link. This is the second link below. This is where you can book your mentorships with me. So I briefly discussed this in the YouTube video itself, but the mentorships are extremely important. This is like right now in this present moment, this is one of the most profound things that I'm passionate about. These mentorships have been extremely life-changing for my students, for my clients. I'm also, if I'm being completely honest, I'm also learning tons about myself by doing these mentorships as well, which is another reason why I'm so passionate about it. But it's so important because if you don't have that right foundation when you're getting into self-development, especially spiritual self-development, you are very likely to set yourself up in a position where you could further traumatize yourself to the point where you're not making any progress. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. People don't have regulated nervous systems, they don't have capacity, and then they start doing self-development practices or spiritual practices that start opening up those floodgates to bring in all different types of influence, and they don't even know how to feel their own sensations with their body yet. So if you don't know how to do that yet, and now you're gonna have to talk to spirits and work with entities, or do ayahuasca, do mushrooms, or certain types of visualizations and meditations, that can be problematic. So developing that foundation is key. That's what we do in the mentorship. And this foundation looks different for everyone. There are similarities and there's a general structure to it, but it is different and it's nuanced depending on the person, because every single person is different. So if this is something you resonate with and you want to work with a professional to help guide you through this process of self-development, which is an intimate process, definitely consider it. Second link below is where you can look at the different mentorships that I offer. Now, if you want to get a taste of what this mentorship is like, then I would recommend booking a one-on-one call with me. In the one-on-one call, once again, we can go over what the mentorship's like if you have any questions around that, or if you simply have just been studying my content and you want to talk to me face to face and you have like a bunch of questions you want to ask me, whether you wrote them down or they're intuitive, we could also do that too. Okay, so all of that, second link below. We're gonna leave that there. Now, as we go into that same second link below, this is where you can book a very unique tarot card reading from me. In this tarot card reading, I can literally pinpoint where you are on the Kabbalistic tree. I can tell you what you're feeling, experiencing, and going through in the present moment, and then what to expect moving into the near and the long-term future based on this very in-depth reading that I'm doing for you. All right, this is a very raw and honest reading, so there's no sugarcoating that goes behind it. As I said, I understand the Kabbalistic tree very well, so I break it down from a Kabbalistic lens with all the little symbols that I'm seeing inside of the cards. I've done well over 2,000 of these readings. I do one almost every single day. I get tons of beneficial feedback. If this is something you want to take advantage of, it's in that same second link below. I'll leave it there. Now, as we move into the third link below, this is where you can become a YouTube member. And as you're becoming a YouTube member, you're gaining access to a multitude of different benefits. But most importantly, you are getting access to what is called the Psychic Warfare Emoji Program. This is a sequence of emojis that I've designed myself that are based on real occult principles and sciences. And you can use them in a specific configuration. You link in the name of a target, hit enter, and it actually causes psychic effects to the target of your choice. This is the most simple form of using psychic warfare through the internet platform, and it also becomes an amazing way to express healthy aggression without repressing it in your own body. All right, there's over 2,000 posts where members have used it already. There are members using it in this moment. If this is something you want to use for yourself, you can definitely do so. You click that third link below, join at the top, and then you have access. All right, so with that being said, this is going to wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you so very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or nights, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.